Hello and welcome back to the Planning Pulse podcast. With you as always, Matt Harbison, the principal practice lead for all things Workday Adaptive Planning at Acorio. With me today, first time visitor of the show, Jason Gates. Jason, how are we doing today?
Doing good, Matt. Longtime listener of the podcast, so excited to be here.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So we are continuing our, getting everyone ready and back into budget season with our tips and tricks series. So Jason, before we dive into the topic for today, as I have done with all of our coworkers so far, I want to just take a few minutes, maybe tell everyone, all of our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Gates. I've been with the company for just over 2 years now. Been in the adaptive field ever since. Been loving it. It's a great software. It's a great tool. Love being able to give it to the clients and show them what they can really do in a powerful software for their planning.
Yeah, and speaking of planning, we are coming up on college football season. I know that you're a big college football fan. Who's your favorite team?
I'm in Texas now, so horns up.
Horns up. I love that. Okay. Well, any special games or anything coming out this season that you're excited about?
I just kind of take them as they come. What do we have? Texas, Ohio State, I think is coming up pretty soon here.
It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a
Yeah.
big one. So I like that. You take them as they come. It sounds like your time in Texas has really turned you, a little bit of a Cowboys fan, a little bit of, sort of cautious optimism. But like you said, we're going to take them as they come and we're going to be planning a little bit more for let's hope maybe another college football playoff run. But for those listening today, let's get back into planning for budget season. So Jason, I know this series that we're doing is tips and tricks getting folks ready for budget season with maybe some lesser known features that they need to get familiar with, need to get comfortable with as they head into budget season. And you and I have been talking a little bit. There's a lesser known feature that's out there for exporting data. I know a lot of our listeners are familiar with, the print screen from any of their sheets, but I want to talk with you a little bit about exporting data and how you see your customers leveraging this feature.
Yeah. No, excited to talk about this one because really when we're thinking about adaptive, we're typically in the mindset of, okay, how do we get data into the system? And then how do we use it to do our planning once it's there? But a forgotten about use cases, then how do we get the data out of the system? And there can be a lot of use cases for it. Maybe we need to do some reconciliation. Maybe you got to get your daily dose of a pivot table, and there's some data in adaptive that you really want to get into Excel. The export data function is going to come up really big when there's situations where you can't just do a print screen like you mentioned, and we'll go into a quick example of that here in a second. Maybe you don't have a report built, an Office Connect report, whatever it is, a matrix, and you don't have the time to throw one together. You just need the data out of the system now. The export data function is going to be your best friend.
Absolutely. And you just hit the nail on the head. If you need to get data out of the system now, this feature is going to help you do that. Just like you said, maybe I'll ask you to pull up a quick example for us. And just like you said, a lot of people are focused on getting data into the system. Let's show folks how to get it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, let me take a screen share here and we'll jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right. So you're going to see first things first. I'm actually on the permission set page right here. Prerequisite for this feature is going to be this export capabilities function in your permission set. This is going to grant you access to that export data function. So let's go ahead and say we're looking at our personnel planning sheet and we need to pull out our tax calculations. If we do this export data or this print screen right here, what it's going to give us is it's going to give us this view. Drag this onto my screen. It's going to give us this view right here where it's going to show us our more of our row-based data with our employees, their level, so on and so forth, but it's not giving us those calculations like we need. What we're really looking for, if we click on row details just really quickly, we're looking for these tax calculations down here, which as we just saw, isn't going to be shown when we do the print screen. So this is where we're going to pivot over to the export data function. So I'll go to my global navigation, I'll go to integration, and then I'm going to use this export data right here. So this is going to be the screen where we're working with in this situation. As many things aren't adaptive, this is version specific, so we'll want to make sure we've got the right version selected up top here. And then we'll start looking into these format pieces. So names and codes, this is typically what you're going to go with If you've got some ulterior mappings between systems, you can use these external codes, but names and codes is really going to be the big one you'll pull. You can then say for the levels and the dimensions, do you want to pull the codes, the names, the display names, a combination of all three? We'll do names and codes for now. And then here's where we get into the bread and butter of it. So we're going to have the list of accounts right here. You're going to see we've got balance sheet accounts, income statement accounts, our modeled and cube sheets and their accounts, custom metrics, etc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click this check all or none just to wipe my settings. Click that twice. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to modeled, which is where my personnel planning sheet lives. I'm going to scroll down a bit further to our tax calcs and go ahead and click those five. Now I want to pull this for all levels, so I'm going to keep this checked. If you want to just pull one or two, you can deselect that, cherry pick those. And then last piece here is going to be the time range. So let's go ahead and just pull 2025 data. Okay, so we got June 25, and then we'll go ahead and pull December 25 as well. So you've got that full 1 year span. Last piece in this dimension section, I want to pull this by job profile. You can pull by any dimension available on the sheet. I want to pull job profile right now, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll up and find this. Click this over. And then down at the very bottom in the rule section, this is going to give us a bit more control of what we're trying to pull and how we're going to pull it. So if we're multi-currency, we can say pull it all in Canadian, pull it all in euros, whatever it is, or we could just use level currency. And then if we want to include roll-ups, we can. I'm going to go ahead and click time roll-ups because I want all of FY 2025. From here, you're ready to rock and roll. You'll click export data. I've got it up right here, another screen. And this is what you're going to be greeted with. So you're going to get a really clean view of all your different accounts. So we see, FUTA, Medicare, by level, by the job profile, and then the amounts and the months right here with our total down here at the very end. From here, the world's our oyster, right? We can go ahead and throw this into a pivot table, whatever it is. We're back into everyone's kind of comfort zone of Excel, the native features that they like to use. You've got all the data from Adaptive coming back here.
I love it. I love when you say the world is your oyster too, because I love oysters and anytime I can think about food as we're going through the podcast, I'm all for it. Anything else from an export data function that you'd want to share here?
Really, that's one example, but there's a lot of different use cases here, right? So we can think about the same thing for cube sheets, and then also with GL account data. Again, most of the time it's going to just have the accounts in the time span, and then the levels up top you can select, do a print screen from there. But same principles apply. If I need to pull out my revenue data by levels, and then if we've got some of that by different dimensionality, we can do that. Same thing here. I can sit there and toggle what currency I want to pull it in. You've got a lot of control here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you walking us through the demo today, Jason. So, like you mentioned at the beginning, there's a number of different reasons that folks may want to get data out of Adaptive. And there's a number of different reasons and ways of doing that. You could create it through the integration design interface. You could create an Office Connect report or a matrix report or HTML report or model report. You could do the print screen, but this export data function is available for our team and for our users should they want to learn how maybe to get a little bit more, like you said, maybe get that account data with some of those taggings that come along with it as well. So really appreciate you walking us through that. Jason, any last comments, thoughts, notes about the export data function that our listeners need to be aware of?
That's really all I got. It's a big quality of life enhancer. Again, you got to get data out of the system sometimes. This is going to be the way to do it.
Well, we on the Planning Pulse podcast are all about life enhancements, like you just mentioned there. And we are going to continue on our tips and tricks going into budget season series. And you will hear from us next week. You can count on it.